shouldn't idolize somebody who we didn't even know 100% of.
They're shocked and they're surprised.
It's been hard to absorb this. It is important that we put those victims first.
This is really quite heartbreaking anytime you hear something like this about a pillar of our community.
He once stood as an icon for civil rights, and tonight lewd and horrifying details are showing a completely different man.
One who is now shrouded in shame, and as you can see in this covered statue at Fresno State, a statue that will soon be taken down.
Good evening, I'm Kim Stevens.
And I'm Madison McKay. Thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday evening.
He was best known for his work in improving wages, living conditions, healthcare in California and across the nation. But horrific details are now out tonight about the late Cesar Chavez, one of the nation's most prominent civil rights leaders.
So this all started yesterday when the New York Times reported there were strong and verified, substantiated even, claims of sexual abuse. Today, those claims were detailed. From who? Well, Dolores Huerta, who co-founded the United Farm Workers of America with Chavez, and other women who were children at the time of their abuse. Cesar Chavez died in 1993 at the age of 66. He's one of the most recognized Latinos in U.S. history. He and Huerta even coining the term "si se puede," which means yes, we can.
The New York Times says it interviewed more than 60 people regarding the allegations and used union records, emails, and other documents to corroborate aspects of these accounts.
And after the story broke, Dolores Huerta released a statement today where she revealed that in the 1960s, she had 2 sexual encounters with Chavez, one against her will and another instance where she said she was pressured. Now, both resulted in pregnancies. She went on to say that knowing he hurt young girls sickens her. She said her heart aches for everyone who suffered alone and in silence for years, condemning his actions. She also said they do not reflect the values of our community and our movement. At the end of the statement, she added that she has kept this secret long enough and her silence ends here.
The Chavez family released a statement calling the allegations, quote, deeply painful to their family. They're devastated by the report. They wish peace and healing to the survivors and commend their courage to come forward.
The family says in part, quote, as a family steeped in the values of equity and justice, we honor the voices of those who feel unheard and who report sexual abuse. They add they remain committed to farm workers and are asking for understanding and privacy as they try to process this very difficult information.
Today, Fox 26 reporter Madison Wilbur spoke with leaders of the United Farm Workers, an organization that Chavez co-founded, to learn more about how they are addressing this revelation.
It was a shock for all of us.
President of the United Farm Workers, Teresa Romero, stunned over the allegations that American labor activist Cesar Chavez raped women and children during his time as UFW president.
What we heard is something that we never expected. We're never going to excuse his actions. That is despicable, and we're never going to condone it.
But whispers of this despicable behavior have been heard before.
We had heard from the family of some of the allegations that were being made, but firsthand in communications with anybody other than the Chavez family, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And to people saying that you guys should have investigated that, do you have any rebuttal to that?
Investigate what, though? What I heard third and fourth hand is very difficult. And investigate what? That the women are lying? I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to question a victim.
For farmers and their families, the UFW still carries the weight of their injustices.
We have to remember who this movement is about, regardless of who is behind it. Who's at the forefront of it, and that is farm workers.
The organization said it will be working in partnership with the Cesar Chavez Foundation to build a safe avenue for anyone who experienced harm.
We need time to process this and make time that, we figure out what the reconciliation process could look like so we can make sure that we assist and support not only the victims, but our community during this time.
The fight for farm workers' rights that Cesar Chavez started over 60 years ago continues today. Coming up, we'll tell you more about how the United Farm Workers are suing the Trump administration in a federal court here in Fresno.
Farm workers are who Assemblywoman Alexandra Macedo is fighting for. She posted this to her X page today saying She wants to rename Cesar Chavez Day to Farm Worker Day. She is introducing legislation to honor their movement, their commitment, and the hands that feed us all.
And Governor Gavin Newsom says that the state of California is currently processing the sexual abuse allegations against Chavez. Here he is.
It's been hard to absorb this. You know, Jen and I are very close with Dolores, so many of us are, but very close. Have been for decades and decades, and none of us knew. We're just going to have to reflect on all of that and, you know, reflect on a farm workers movement and a labor movement that was much bigger than one man.
Now, a growing statewide movement is now pushing school districts and universities, including Fresno State, to reconsider names that are tied to Cesar Chavez.
In fact, we're showing you video now of the Cesar Chavez statue at Fresno State from yesterday. We brought this to you as our top story last night, but we're going to get right to our reporter, Myra Franco, who's live from that very statue.
Which tonight is a much different view. Myra?
Yeah, Kim Madison, the statue used to stand right here. Earlier today, this morning, the university covered it with some sort of black fabric. And now, as you can see, it's been boarded up. And it's not just Fresno State reacting. Other school districts across the San Joaquin Valley are too.
Fresno State, where President Saul Jimenez Sandoval addressed the allegations surrounding Cesar Chavez. I am deeply saddened and disturbed by the allegations being reported about Cesar Chavez. This reporting is compounded by the painful statement made by Dolores Huerta this morning. These profoundly troubling claims about the rape of women and minors call for our full attention and moral reckoning by removing his statue from our campus. Fresno Unified Board Trustee Keisha Thomas also weighed in.
These things coming to light brings heartbreak, because this is a pillar of our community, somebody that we really looked up to. But then we have a woman who we admire and adore, you know, so there's two places, but it's really coming from a place of sadness that we actually have to endure this.
She says calls are coming in from the community demanding a change about the Cesar Chavez Adult School.
We've had lots of calls and concerns in person as well as phone calls. And we are taking, you know, those phone calls into consideration. But from my knowledge, there is a petition that has already started.
Community input will be the driving decision whether the school's name is changed. Under board policy, the community must submit the petition, which the board then will review and consider.
You know, anything can be removed in a blink of an eye. You know, modern technology allows us to change things quickly. So we will do our best to do what the community wants. And, you know, again, it could take as little, we can have it done as early as April, and it could be as long as May.
In Delano, a petition is circulating online created by students calling for Cesar E. Chavez High School to be renamed. A stunning split from what was the epicenter in the late 1980s of Cesar Chavez hunger strikes, fighting for wage equality and dignity for farm workers.
Schools are still processing this information, as we all are. Parlier Unified has a Cesar Chavez Elementary School. So does Madera Unified. It told us this, quote, "Our district always seeks to see, hear, and care for those who feel invisible or diminished, so we cannot look away from the pain being reported. We are continuing to monitor credible information as it becomes available, and will work with our elected board of trustees to ensure any next steps align with our vision for our community and our core values." Kim Madison, back to you in the studio, but this is a whole lot of things for schools to reconsider during this time.
Right.
And Myra, really quickly, just so that our viewers can get an understanding of what's behind you, just hours ago, the Cesar Chavez statue was covered in a black tarp. We saw that in your story, but now, are you and your photographer able to give us a better view of what is on top of it now? It looks like a wooden box.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have our photojournalist Ronnie here zoom out so you can actually take a look. Let me step aside. It's boarded up from all four corners, so literally from around, it's a box. It's a wooden box.
Wow.
And we're not sure whether inside the statue is or not, assuming so, but that's just speculation at this point. But the statue was here earlier. It was just covered again in that black drape.
Gotcha. Myra, thank you so much for showing us just what a difference it has made just the few hours from the story breaking to now how they're covering the statues across the CSU system.
Swift movement, swift decision making. Now, you know what? Myra also asked Fresno Board Trustee Keisha Thomas how schools plan to move forward in teaching the history of Cesar Chavez.
Isn't this a hard thing? you know, once we put someone into the history books, you know, it's very difficult to remove all of that all over the world. You know, again, we're talking about a pillar, you know, somebody in history that we held highly in high regards, and we have put him in the history books. He is in our history books. So all those things being removed will take time, but step by step, people all over the country are, you know, moving full steam ahead. They're very disappointed and they want to see change fast.
And she says what happens next is part of a larger conversation.
A conversation we continue tonight. So what about streets that are named after Cesar Chavez, like the recently renamed Cesar Chavez Boulevard in Southeast Fresno?
We first brought you this story last night, but tonight Fox 26's Danya Romero talked with even more business owners and looks at how the city is now preparing for more change.
The city of Fresno kept all 280 signs, so if the city approves to change it back, this Cesar Chavez Boulevard sign in downtown Fresno will go back to Ventura Boulevard. Some business owners say the city is making the right call in changing the street names back to what they once were.
I'm 100% agree that we shouldn't idolize somebody who we didn't even know 100% of.
David Sarabian with the Holy Trinity Armenian Apostolic Church says since the name change, it's turned into a daily reminder of negative encounters he's had with protests tied to Cesar Chavez.
Back when I was growing up, I still am a farmer, and the United Farm Workers was protesting grape growers at the time. And when I was a child, they came and they knocked over a bunch of our boxes we picked. They knocked my father down, and it was a violent day that I'll never forget.
It cost the city over $330,000 to replace the signs. However, the city says it wouldn't cost much to replace them since it kept all 280 signs. Do you feel like it was a waste for the city to change it?
Definitely. For everybody, like taxpayers, the city, I feel like they should have maybe done a little backstory to everything, but I mean, it is what it is now. Good thing like we're going back. So I think it's just we move on from now.
The city of Fresno will hold a special meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to discuss that very same name change.
We also spoke with Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer as Councilmember Miguel Arias calls for Cesar Chavez name to be removed from city streets. Mayor Dyer says the information is truly shocking to everyone.
It is important that we put those victims first and foremost in our minds and do the right thing as cities, not only in Fresno, but across California. We want to honor the victims, and at the same time, we don't want to do anything that hurts the Chavez family.
Says he has already had conversations with the council about renaming Cesar Chavez Boulevard back to what it was: California Avenue, Kings Canyon Road, even Ventura Avenue. The mayor also mentioned that the cost to remove the Chavez name will actually be minimal because the city kept all of the old signs.
And as Chavez's name is intertwined with day-to-day life in California, we reached out to the office of Governor Gavin Newsom to pose our accountability question. We asked the governor's office, will the state of California still observe Cesar Chavez with a state holiday? And here's what the governor's office said. They said, quote, given the seriousness of these allegations, open to conversations with the legislature now on any statutory changes. Now, at this point, it's unclear whether CSU campuses, including Fresno State, will observe Cesar Chavez Day on March 31st and have the day off or not.
Okay, well, the same question remains, though, for state workers as well. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we learn more, because clearly this is unraveling, but pretty swiftly.
Disturbing new allegations against labor icon and Mexican-American icon Cesar Chavez are forcing a reckoning across the country. Good evening, everybody. I'm your host, Christian Andrade, and this is ARC El Paso. It stands for authentic, relevant, and of course, community-based. Every weeknight, we break down the issues that matter and give you the context to understand the stories shaping life here in the borderland. Love Top tonight, an investigation by the New York Times details claims from two women now in their 60s who say Chavez raped and sexually abused them when they were as young as 12 years old. Labor activist Dolores Huerta says she was among the women and girls abused by Cesar Chavez during his years leading the United Farm Workers. In a statement, Huerta says she stayed silent for decades, worried that speaking out would damage the movement that she worked so hard to build. Well, for generations, Chavez was seen as a hero to Latino communities and farm workers across the country. California was the first state to honor Chavez with a holiday on March 31st, his birthday. Other states then followed, and in 2014, President Barack Obama even made it a national day of recognition. Well, now state leaders say the focus has to shift.
It was never an indication all these years. We have to be there for the back of the victims, and we have to make sure truth and trust is restored.
Well, over in D.C., the Congressional Hispanic Caucus says it's now looking at renaming streets, buildings, and even holidays that bear Chavez's name. They're redirecting that recognition to farm workers and the broader Latino community. Now, the Chavez family, in a statement to CBS News, calls the revelations deeply painful, offering support to the survivors and praising their courage for coming forward. Now, the United Farm Workers, the union Chavez co-founded, says it will sit out this year's Cesar Chavez Day events in response to the allegations. Meanwhile, folks here in El Paso are wrestling with what this means for Chavez's legacy. Some are calling for accountability, while others are unsure how to separate the man from the movement.
I honestly do think that it's an opportunity for the city and for the citizens to set a standard, right? And say, we are not going to allow people that behave in this way, even if this was something that happened in the past.
I heard he's done a lot for the Mexican community, Hispanics and all that, but now that things like that are coming out about him, that takes a big toll on the community.
I don't mean to celebrate him, but the cause that he did for us as Hispanics and everything he did. So that's something that I think that did a significant change for many people. However, the things that he did allegedly should maybe probably be a bit separated from the two. He was a sign, so he was a sign for freedom, hope, and everything. But now with that coming out, it kind of switches it a little.
I think that it's so important that we hold him accountable for these allegations and the fact that, he may have also been a contributor to abuse and to hurt in the world.
Well, those allegations sparking a whole lot of reaction today. The League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, strongly condemning any form of sexual abuse, saying no legacy should outweigh accountability, while also stressing that accusations do not diminish the broader farm worker movement. In El Paso, the mayor, Renard Johnson, calling the allegations serious and urging the community to approach them with care, while acknowledging Chavez's long-standing symbolic role for many Latino families. And Isleta ISD says it's taken the claim seriously, but for now, district policy limits whether a school named after Chavez can be renamed, adding it will continue reviewing the issue as more information rolls out.
Julia Spencer with KFOX 14 in Arc El Paso, and I'm here at Lincoln Park where a mural meant to honor civil rights leader Cesar Chavez is being changed. Now you can see the mural is still a work in progress, but on one side of the mural was where Chavez's name was once painted. Now artists covered his name in red paint today. This after new sexual abuse allegations about Chavez are gaining national attention. Artists working on the mural wouldn't comment, but the change has shown the feelings of some of those here in the El Paso community. Well, today I spoke with a UTEP professor who says this is about more than one person. It's about how we remember history. She points out that while Chavez was influential, the farm worker movement included many leaders, and that we can acknowledge harm without erasing the impact of the entire movement itself. And again, this mural shows just how personal and complex this conversation has become for the Hispanic community like this one.
We constantly examine how power, gender, and leadership intersect to form experiences and to form historical narratives. So moments like this are part of a broader cultural shift where hopefully more people are able to safely speak about sexual violence.
For decades, Cesar Chavez has been recognized as a key leader in the farm worker movement. With schools,
murals, and a national holiday honoring his legacy. But now some of those long-held perceptions are being re-examined.
This movement is not solely defined by Cesar Chavez. There are many other leaders within this movement, and one of the great leaders is Dolores Huerta.
Dr. Hilda Ontiveros Arrieta, a professor of women's studies and women's health, says focusing on one figure can overshadow the broader movement and the many people behind it.
As society, I think we need to make that shift where we reassess historical narratives and look at the broader picture and acknowledge that great things did happen that impacted the rest of society. However, we do need to acknowledge that harm was caused, and that calls for a greater interrogation of our historical narratives.
And she says acknowledging harm doesn't mean erasing history.
I think it's possible, or I know it's possible, to separate an entire movement with the harm someone has caused.